All right. My name is Nick. I'm the CEO of C-City, and we're always super excited to have these types of conversations. On Thursday, we talk to community leaders about what is going on in the community, how people are thinking about recovery. We've talked to a variety of folks ranging on topics from immigration to transportation to the environment. We're sort of all over the place, all with the idea that more knowledgeable citizens make for better community engagers, better voters, and plus this stuff is interesting. Like, it affects your daily life. So we're super excited to bring this type of programming to you. So before I let Tina tell us a little bit about what she does, I just want to introduce her. She is the director of Seattle's Innovation and Performance Team at the City of Seattle, which is like a super snazzy, cool, interesting title. She previously was a policy advisor to Mayor Mike Bloomberg, forgot the title there, in New York, and worked as management consultant in government and nonprofit at both city, county, state, federal, and international levels. She hails from the East Coast. We won't hold that against you because we now believe that you are a Seattleite, having lived here for more than 8 years. I believe the bar is actually 5 years. So yeah, you're definitely in. So, so Tina, thanks for joining today. Can you just talk a little bit about the role of the Innovation and Performance Team? What do you guys do? Who are you?
Yeah. So first off, I'm so pumped to be here because I always love when I get to connect with Nick and learn about what C-City's working on, and what he always pivots to quite quickly is the incredible community. So it's really cool to get to connect here with that community. So as Nick said, I lead a unit called Innovation Performance in the City of Seattle. It's a little wordy, but essentially we're a multidisciplinary innovation unit. We sit within the mayor's office of the city, but by design, we're here to work across the city bureaucracy. So we get really excited every day to work with city departments using some of our specialized or general skills to help them solve problems that they're encountering. And in doing that, we do a couple of things. We design and deliver projects. And in some of those projects, we'll bring in sort of our superpowers related to data science or design thinking, behavioral science, and evaluation. So those are some of the flavors of things we bring to projects we work on. We also help to connect our colleagues in the city with external resources and with partnerships. We really recognize the power of collective impact. And so we try to serve as a hub to bring together external folks who want to help out, and then the internal city colleagues who can be the right point of contact and just watch magic happen. And then third, we provide leadership on some different cross-departmental issues. So things like data governance, we lean in hard to, given that that's such an enterprise-wide issue. Things like facilitating collaboration across departments, and on promoting things like design thinking across the city government. So that's a bit about what we do. I'll say, as a recovery management consultant, we can liken ourselves to an internal consulting team. So if that resonates with any of you who are logged onto the call, I'm a recovering consultant who's now still kind of a consultant. If that makes sense.
I love it. I love it. So I'm just going to go right off the script to start because that's how I'm doing this today. Can you just talk about how big your team is and the type of talent that you have? Like, it's super interesting to me, the different pieces of work and likely the different types of backgrounds folks have. Like, what does the city's innovation team look like?
Yeah. So I like to say that we're a small team, and I like to say that we are scrappy but not crappy. So we're about a 10-person unit, and on that team we've got the city's civic designer who brings expertise on human-centered design. We've got a data scientist and a number of data engineers who help to think through how do we make better use of our administrative data, and then how do we automate things and just get stuff off and running to try to take that manual pain out of using the information we have to glean insights and inform policies and services. We've also got some folks who have more general skills related to project management, to partnership development and engagement. And so it's very multidisciplinary, which is one of the things I love the most about getting to work with this team of really talented and passionate folks. So across the board, if you will.
Yeah, and so your tagline is using data and design to creatively solve problems. Broadly speaking, what is the approach in using data to creatively solve problems?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's important when I think about public sector innovation is, first, how do you define it? Because innovation can mean a lot of different things to different people. And so for us, we think about deviating from the status quo to deliver for the common good. And in that way, we don't have the luxury of getting to do as much sort of R&D type of things that our colleagues in the private sector get to do. And it's not because we don't want to, but it's because we have to think about every next taxpayer dollar, right? And how do we put that and get the most return on that taxpayer investment? So our approach, there's a couple key characteristics of our approach. First, as I said, it's multidisciplinary. We don't show up to every party with the same sort of same bag of tricks. Really, we love being able to engage our colleagues in the city to understand what it is they're facing, and then come with whatever sort of approach we think would be helpful to them in meeting their needs. It's partnership driven. So one thing that I love about public sector innovation is it leverages and really relies upon the expertise, the passion, and the ideas of city employees. Because I got to tell you, for me, earlier in my career, I used to be one of those folks who grumbled about government. And now that I'm in government, I'm blown away on a regular basis by the just brilliance of folks working in the city. Folks who have been working here for 20, 30 years or for 6 months. But our approach is really partnership driven, because since we are sort of internal consultants, it means that we might come in and partner with a department or team for a bit of time, but then we're gonna sort of fade out, right? And they sustain. So we really look to think about what is valuable and sustainable for our partners. And finally, it's like innovation anywhere else, it's iterative. There's work that we've done that started years ago from an executive order, and then we just continuously iterate and add on to the work that we've done in that space to think about how we can continue to push the envelope, continue to deliver value for the common good. So yeah, those are sort of the three key characteristics of how we approach our work.
I love that you talked about people's perspective within government and how innovative they actually are. Yeah. I think one experience that I've had working with and interacting a lot with private sector folks is, when you're on either the public facing side, whether that's in a governmental organization or in a nonprofit, the resources are so constrained and they're so tightly bound to specific either earmarks or outcomes or goals that even when you look at like a budgeting process, the budgeting process is wild because not every dollar has the same value depending on what bucket it's in, right? And so it's just like, as an operator in that space, you have to be really, really creative on how you think about stitching those dollars together to actually maximize the value. And it's a very complicated and interesting puzzle.
Yeah, so, I think that's even more so, Nick. I love that you made that point, because I think about when we try to bring some of the more specialized skills we have. So for example, folks on today's call who are logged on might be interested to hear about how are we using data science in the city, right? So one thing my talented colleagues on the data analytics part of our unit, they think about leveraging predictive modeling using machine learning, right? When you pair that specialized skill that's leveraging advanced data technologies, when you pair that with the knowledge that a city employee has on how different things work, whether it's programs, ops, whatever, real magic can happen. And by designing it so intentionally, you're making it sustainable, right? Because what we don't want to do is be those consultants who swoop in and think we're so fabulous and know it all and say, oh, everybody listen to us. And then we leave and folks are wondering, what did we just waste our time with, right? So it's a really, really important aspect of our approach.
Right. I also want to pick up on a piece that you were talking about around partnerships and innovation. I know that you're involved with the Innovation Advisory Council. Can you just talk a little bit about what that is, so folks on the call have a little bit of context? They may or may not be aware of it.
Yeah. So the Innovation Advisory Council is a public-private partnership that was stood up by Mayor Durkin in the first year of her administration. And what it really seeks to do is partner and build like stronger partnerships between the city and our private sector partners, the brilliant folks who are logged onto this call, who call Seattle home or work in Seattle, and leverages that talent and expertise to build our city's capacity for innovation. What's so important is that we know that in Seattle, given the folks who live, work, and play here, we know that expectations are high for government. And so we want to continuously be building our internal capacity to stay on top of leading technologies, of what the sort of leading thinking is on innovation. And truth be told, with government dollars alone, we can't always do that. So the Innovation Advisory Council is this amazing partnership where we can bring in folks with all sorts of areas of expertise. I think if you're logged onto the C-City call, you have the type of expertise and knowledge that we're always eager for. And we identify projects and have a city staff and staff from our employee companies or from our member companies, and they work side by side. So one example is a couple of years ago, the mayor, one of her first executive orders was around wanting to make it easier for residents to know like what programs in the city exist to help with their cost of living. How is the city working to make it more affordable? We were able to partner with Expedia, which has been an incredible Innovation Advisory Council partner, and they helped us shape something that may not sound groundbreaking to folks, but it's a tool that allows you to provide 3 pieces of information: your household size, the age if you have children in your household, and your zip code. And it provides you with programs that you're eligible for that can cut your cost of living. Now, that was an initial body of work that Expedia helped us with from a design perspective and web development. And now we're iterating on that with other IAC partners. And so that's the kind of magic that we are getting really excited about from that partnership with area companies. It's been great.
Yeah. We wanted to just drop in a number of items into the chat as we go for anybody in the audience, so you can peek at what's going on there. One of the things that we really try and talk about through these types of events is the issue of race and justice. This was, I think, in large response to a lot of the demonstrations that happened over the summer in support of Black Lives. And so we're always curious about how public counterparts are thinking about race and justice. And maybe a more specific question for you is, how does your team's work inform and intersect with the city's race and social justice initiatives?
Great question. So I think, I go back to how I frame innovation in the public sector, which is that it's all in the service of improved outcomes for the greater good, the common good, right? And so for us, equity is central there. I'll share that when I worked for Mayor Bloomberg in New York City 10 plus years ago, we were trying to think about how do we integrate the role of race into how we assess the impact of potential programs and investments. And New York wasn't yet doing that. And the city that was Seattle. So I remember being a policy advisor in New York City, calling Seattle and saying, how do you do this? And so what I'm excited to share is we have learned a ton from our colleagues in the city who lead the Race and Social Justice Initiative. And we are constantly trying to improve how we embed the lessons they've taught us into our work. 3 examples I'll share with you, just to keep it concise. One, just constantly centering the question of who benefits and who is burdened in our work, whether it's on, whether we're developing policy, whether we're engaged in a digital project with an Innovation Advisory Council partner, or whatever it may be, shaping a new intervention, really centering the conversation around who benefits, who is burdened, and who are we trying to solve is a key aspect of integrating that commitment equity in our work. Another example is when we're doing leading design driven projects, and we're either doing co-design or maybe we've developed a prototype of a service or a program we want to test it with folks. When we're doing that, we're really focused on bringing in residents whose voices have not been at the table traditionally, or the voices that reflect the folks we're trying to serve. Never mind the authorizing environment, never mind the folks who are usually at the table, right? Who do we need, whose voices need to directly impact and inform the work of the city? We deliberately bring those voices in, and oftentimes it takes work to do that, and we're here to do that work because we're committed to that. The third piece, and again, those of you who are logged onto the call and may work in with data, each of your organizations, something that we've come across is through our work on performance or data analytics, really realizing the critical value that data disaggregation plays, and getting clear on how does local government disaggregate data in terms of race and ethnicity. Why do we need to do that? And how does that then help us to know, are we really serving our residents well, right? Because I'm Indian American. If you just categorize me with others that identify as Asian, you may not know how a government service is affecting me. And let's be real, it's using me as an example is bad, right? We really want to think about, for particularly our Black residents and Indigenous residents, how is the way that we categorize and store data, how does that inhibit us from better understanding their needs and then serving them? So those are three examples I'll share just of how we think about it on a daily basis, but we are constantly looking to improve.
Yeah. Thank you for the very concise examples on that. I love that you're like 1, 2, 3. Here they are. Boom.
I'm a recovering consultant. It's the rule.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's right. 3 or 5. So one other question, and I'm just going to mention to the audience, if you have any questions, please drop it in the Q&A chat. We've only got a couple minutes left on this session, and I'm happy to scoop up any audience questions before we're through. But what are some unexpected ways that a resident in Seattle might experience innovation in the city? Like, what is that consumer/citizen experience of the work that you work to bring to life? There's a lot of work in there, but
this is going to be hard to keep it to 3. I'm going to try to keep it to 2. And folks, I want to hear questions or comments. So I'll limit myself to 2 examples. So first, and this is really timely right now, given the level of COVID activity and transmission we see in our communities. But if you rewind to the spring, take yourselves back to when we were the first epicenter in the US. COVID, like none of us knew what on earth to do. We were all, many of us were in lockdown, not all of us. The city knew that we needed to provide testing to our residents. There was no cavalry coming, right? The feds weren't going to come in and take care of it. And so we literally found folks in South Korea who could supply us with testing supplies. We then engaged in a fantastic partnership with the University of Washington that involved our fire department, our finance and administrative services, a bunch of departments in the city, and came together to shape our COVID testing sites, free city-run COVID testing sites. And that's not the really exciting part of those testing sites is the work, the design thinking that went into designing them. Because if any of you have been to any of those sites, you've experienced how the folks there, it's designed to reduce your anxiety, because we know what it's like to have that stress on your mind. These testing sites are laser focused on customer satisfaction. We've gotten tens of thousands of reviews. Our average review is 4.9 out of 5 in terms of customer satisfaction. And it's because there was such intentional design of what we wanted those to look like. Because when you're coming to a COVID testing site, you got a lot on your mind. We want to help you sort of shed some of that anxiety and get you on your way so that you can get your results. The second example I'll share is for those of you who maybe not right now, but pre-pandemic were frequent users of Uber or Lyft, as I was. Something that Seattle did, we were only the second city in the country to introduce a minimum compensation for Uber and Lyft drivers, because otherwise they didn't qualify for the minimum wage that we have in the city. And something that's really important on that is that I'm excited about, the innovation, is it wasn't just sort of looking at a formula of what that minimum compensation should be, but rather we interviewed a third of the TNC drivers registered in King County through one-on-one interviews, focus groups, survey. We really try to engage them directly to understand, is this just a side gig for you, or is it really your full-time job? And the texture of feedback we got from the drivers themselves, we went straight to them as we thought about this legislation, got a ton of great insight, and that helped to inform now the drivers will have a minimum compensation. It allows them greater job security and more rights. And that's, you may not think of that when you get in your next Uber or Lyft, but it's something that's really important as we think about making Seattle an affordable place to live for everyone.
Yeah, great examples. Time always goes so fast, especially when you and I get a chance to chat. I feel like time just sort of evaporates. So I'm gonna ask one last question and then we'll wrap things up. I'm not seeing anything come from the audience. They're being quiet today. But
Come on, guys.
what are some things that an individual can do to participate in and or encourage innovation in city government? I mean, do people need to like show up at city council and scream about innovation? Right? Like I think for a lot of folks, that's what they imagine like participating with government is it's testimonial at city council. Like, what are the other mechanisms out there that that they can participate in?
Yeah. So we kind of joked about it, but like, hey, public comment, if that's your thing, go for it. Because the one thing I would say is start off by making your voice heard, that you support more experimentation in the city, that you want the city to be leaning in and trying new things. I'll tell you, and this is not just because I work for her, the mayor, like constantly, particularly since the COVID pandemic hit, is always thinking about just try stuff. Let's try new things, take some risks, see what works, what doesn't work, and then let's just keep learning and moving forward. So I would say it's really, it would be huge for this C-City community. Make your voice heard that you want to see more of that, and make it known to if you email the mayor's office, people read every single email. Reach out to your council members. You are represented. Your district is represented by a council member. Let them know what you want to see. I'd also say a second idea, going back to my rule of threes, second idea is there's lots of boards and commissions and opportunities to get plugged in and lean into government. We're seeing on the national level more folks leaning in and either running for office or participating in parts of their government. That should include all of you. Lean in. We're actually right now looking for folks to join our technology advisory board. So this would be a great group for us to get folks from. But lean in, and they might feel like stodgy, old school like artifacts of government. But this is how, like, bringing in that voice, it's so critical. And if we have more folks involved in boards, commissions, task forces, whatever, encouraging innovations, encouraging experimentation or risk taking, that matters. The last thing, number 3, is reach out to me. I want to talk to you. Again, we love being able to partner with folks in our community to help make the city government better. So reach out. And if you don't have questions now, I'd love to talk. Let's have a virtual coffee. Nick can vouch for me, I think.
I would vouch for you. Absolutely. So that's great. The Community Technology Advisory Board is a great way to lean in. A number of tech folks have been on that board over the years, including folks from Rover and Amazon and a variety of other tech companies. And there's a great piece of work that they do around matching funds for digital equity. It's fantastic and important work, a great way to dip your toe in. Tina, it's so nice to see you.
Good
I
to see
really
you.
appreciate you showing up today. Thanks to the audience. Just as a reminder, another great way to stay informed is to pay attention to our email, because all these types of things we include in our weekly newsletter. There actually is, in this week's newsletter, an opportunity for you to engage with Seattle Public Schools around technology. So there you go. If schools are your thing, technology is your thing, it's an easy win. All you got to do is apply. I think application is closed maybe on December 3rd or something like that, but you can see in our newsletter all the information there. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon. And thanks again.
Everyone. Stay safe, wear a mask.